Okay, my clock says it's 7 o'clock. If you'll stand, we'll be led in prayer by Commissioner Jason Boyett.
Bow with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask that you will bless the commissioners in this room tonight with guidance and wisdom. Please help us to govern our county with enlightened minds and hearts. Thank you, Lord, for all of the civil servants in this room. Thank you for all their hard work and sacrifices. Please help us to skillfully govern the wonderful people of Bedford County. Please give our mayor, commissioners, county leaders, department heads, and county staff the wisdom needed to solve problems, bring stability, distinguish between right and wrong, and prosperity to Bedford County. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you would stand and stay standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. The meeting will now officially be opened by the Sheriff, Austin Swing.
Hear ye, the Bedford County Board of Commissioners is now in session. The Honorable Mayor, Chad Graham, presiding.
Thank you. You can be seated. All right, first item is roll call by County Clerk Donna Thomas.
Commissioner Anderson? Commissioner Boutwell?
Here.
Commissioner Boyett?
Here.
Commissioner Brothers? Commissioner Epperson?
Here.
Commissioner Farrer? Commissioner Hooker?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Maddox?
Here.
Commissioner Neely?
Here.
Commissioner Pinson?
Here.
Commissioner Sanders?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Adam Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Mark Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Vick?
Here.
Commissioner Yockey?
Here.
16 present, 2 absent.
All right, next item on the agenda is under minutes approval of the commission meeting from June 13, 2023.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
You got that? All right, any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then next under minutes, because we had the special call meeting, so they're on here for consideration, approval of special call meeting minutes from June the 29th, 2023. We hard copied those to your desk. If there's any question or concern, you certainly could defer it, I assume, but due to the nature of when that meeting fell, it was difficult for us to get them in hard copy to you in advance.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to slightly amend the minutes.
Okay, what are you wanting to amend?
I make a motion to amend the minutes to include the rest of a portion of a statement that I made. In the minutes, it was captured that I said, and I quote, "There are things in the budget that we may not really need, such as fire marshal 100% or $100,000 for partnership and people making 6 figures on payroll. Regarding the people making 6 figures on our county payroll statement, I actually said, do we really need people making 6 figures on our county payroll? Do they need substantial raises when other people in the county are struggling?" So that was my complete statement, and omitting just a portion of it gives the wrong impression of my intended point. So my point, the actual words that I stated, do they really need to make 6 figures when other people in the county are struggling, needs to be added to that statement, please.
Is there a second to
Second.
his amendment? Okay, so we have a motion, a second. This is to accept the minutes, special call meeting minutes, with the clarification that he just spoke. Does everybody understand that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so tonight is the first night in July that we've been together where officially public hearing or public comment, hearing is a different status. Public comment will be available at all government meetings across the state of Tennessee. Part of that requirement was for the bodies to establish the ground rules for how many people, how many minutes you would allow them to speak on matters. So if this body is okay with that, I'd like to take number 5 and go up to next so that we can establish, this body can decide what you want the rules to be so that we can then exercise the public comment opportunity. Does everybody understand that and okay with that? Okay. All right, so number 5 was temporary public comment guidelines, and it did go to committee. Committee sent it as a temporary consideration. I believe Chairman would agree with that. So now it's if there's a motion, a second, or however you want to start it, then if you want to amend it or adjust it, that'll be up to the body before we exercise it. Commissioner Hooker.
So what we're doing now, just to clarify, is to make recommendations as to what period of time or what process that we're wanting to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. We gave you a suggestion of a concept, but it's totally to be set by this body, and it would be the standing process, you might say, or rule for also committees. So it wouldn't be just for the commission proper. It would guide all of our committee meetings, government meetings going forward. And again, I'm under the impression that you could always go back and modify your rules at a later date, because we've had to do that from time to time within your bylaws or your rules and regs. But yes, my understanding before we would start the process of allowing comment, we would need to establish how many for each side on an issue maybe, and then how many minutes per person maybe that you would want to do that.
If I could, I would like to just make a recommendation of no longer than 30 minutes. And again, hold on, we have had many controversial topics, including wheel tax and other things, and none of them went over that period of time. And I don't think this is something that we're going to deal with on frequency, but there are some occasions that we do need to talk and allow the people of this county to be able to communicate. Because once the meetings start, they're outside of public comments, they do not have the ability to communicate with us on their particular topics. So I think it needs to be no more than a 30-minute period, 3 minutes per person, be alternating for and against.
Did you say 3 minutes or 3 people?
No longer than a 30-minute period total for public comments, 3 minutes per person, alternating for and against.
Okay.
And then if they run out of one side or the other, then it just continues until that 30-minute mark would end or the public comments were done. And I know that seems like a significant period of time, but in my opinion, a lot of these meetings don't last over an hour, and I think I can give 30 extra minutes to the people of this county to have their voice.
Okay, now one of the things, again, this is this body's decision. In the directive from the state, you've got to give the same amount of time for the fors that you give for the against, okay? And so that was why we kind of showed you a suggestion of establishing a number on each side that you would want to do. But again, if I'm hearing you and clarify for the body, you're not necessarily want to stipulate how many people can speak. You want to just cap the total time that the event would happen. Am I?
Yes, and I understand that the guidelines may be even, but the problem is if we have certain things, and I don't want to limit one side or the other being able to speak. And so again, just like we had with the same instance, we ran out of one side, and just so I can get clarification, maybe John T. can clarify. But my thing is if you run out of people, then we shouldn't stifle the other side just because less people showed up against the topic.
Okay, Commissioner Sanders, I'm sorry.
One thing that I have from, the ones that you drafted here on the guidelines, I think it looks really good. The thing is, one thing that it says on here is that so that we can address an item on the agenda. So if you had 3 or 4 items that people wanted to speak on and you gave them 30 minutes, that you could be here for a couple hours just on, so I mean, I think it's going to depend on how many items you have on your agenda. So you've got to take that into consideration too. I really like the suggestions here where 3 people speak in favor of, 3 people speak against, and if there's more than 3, then you draw 3 names. I think that's a great, on each side, I think that's a great suggestion.
Now, that would be based on 3 minutes, but I would also concur that what I read said it would be per item on the agenda. So if there was 5 things on the agenda and there are 5 groups of however you decide this would be, it wouldn't be whenever it runs out. So whatever, again.
My
Commissioner
question
Pence.
is to speaking, it's for 3 minutes.
Is that what you're suggesting? I think he's on the 3 minutes, but not the 3 for, 3 against. Don't let me misquote you. Okay, and then your comment, Commissioner Sanders, was 3 for, 3 against for 3 minutes. And you were just asking for clarification, is the amount of time one speaks 3 minutes? So I think that part we're all in agreement is 3 minutes. Now, one suggestion versus another aren't the same. Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chairman, I think that, I mean, I've seen similar meetings where there were just two lines made, and, you know, there was one line that was for and one line that was against. I know that would keep us here for an amount of time, but I think it's just extremely important that everybody that wants to have a voice at the table should have that voice. I think we all feel that way, but I think part of our job is to listen to the people, whether it happens here at this meeting or it happens outside of these four walls. I would make a motion that we extend two lines, one for, one against, and when those lines are exhausted, we move on.
Okay, now, at 3 minutes apiece, or do you want to just let them talk, and which way would you? I'm just trying to make sure we're all, so we can figure out what we're agreeing on and then where we have differences. So are you in agreement with the 3 minutes individual?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. It's a great call out, and that would be my suggestion, 3 minutes for each.
But unlimited about who could speak, or, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're hearing all kinds of interesting thoughts. Now, again, this is decided by this body, so somebody's going to need to make a motion for what they want, and then let's see if we get 10 votes to do that. Commissioner Hooker?
Yeah, we just got to be very careful because we're in the people's house. This is their building. They have the responsibility to hold us accountable. If we do not give them the opportunity to talk, then we are not being held accountable by our constituents. And the thing is I would hope that we have 10 people in this room that could allow the people that want to speak. I'm sorry, we spent some commissioner meetings, we've been here 10 minutes. And so the thing is if a meeting that is controversial on a topic that matters to the people, they come in this room, take the time out of their busy day to come here and talk, we have the right, or we should give them the right to be able to speak to their commissioners. And the thing is if we think that that's too much time, then maybe we need to reconsider what we're doing. Because if we're going to say that we want to be representatives of the people, and we want to sit up here and have that responsibility, then we should have the ability to sit here and listen to the constituents. Again, some of the most controversial things we've dealt with in the last 7 months has never went over 30 minutes. So at the end of the day, we can give them that much time.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we form two lines, one for, one against, for 3 minutes each.
But unlimited in the length of the evolution.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, Drew, Commissioner Hooker. Okay, so the motion on the floor would be unlimited for and against, but no more than 3 minutes per person for whatever the time of that would be, and that would obviously be per item on the agenda that the public wish to speak. Is that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Sanders.
Also, with your suggestion on the back, there was a request form that we would be using. So will all the people in both of those lines be filling out a request form to speak?
I would say that we would omit the form, and then those two lines would be representative of for. Okay, so maybe for the record, Mr. Chairman, they fill out the form, standing in line.
Mr. Chairman, just on the form, that form is important to the person taking the minutes as to who is speaking. And it also allows us as a commissioner to know the area that person is from, like if they're from my district or somebody else's district, so.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Yaki has a great point. I feel that the person should fill out the form and then hand it forward to be able to speak.
Okay, so the motion and the second on the floor is for unlimited for and against, but 3 minutes per person speaking, and the form guideline that we had about filling it out and making sure that we know in advance, or by the time that we call the meeting to order, we would know and understand that. Is that what your motion is?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And Commissioner Hooker, is that you? Yeah, okay. All right, and so is there any other comments or question about this? Yeah, Commissioner Yaki.
Is this done before every item that comes up, or is this going to be like at the beginning of the commission and you know what the docket is supposedly, and so you're commenting on anything that might be up. So is it 1, or is it like tonight, 6 or 7?
Yeah, it was my understanding, again, whatever this body, however you want to steer this will happen. Sort of how we were hearing it kind of laid out from the state and the CTAS and the people talking before it went into effect was, I took it to be under the impression that the public would speak before the matter was on the floor active, maybe would be the right way to say it. Now, if you would want to say before each item is actually, next item on the agenda is discussing shoe color, anyone interested in that, or do you want to just say at the beginning of it, and they can put what the topic is that they're interested in if we're going to do the form and sort, we can do some sorting there. Now, keep in mind, this is going to happen at committee as well, okay? And so, but we can, again, this is the time, and that's why I asked you to bring it to the front so we can resolve this before you get started, and then somebody doesn't cry foul about who got to speak and
My
who didn't.
suggestion is to, 1, at the beginning of the commission or as close to the beginning, person state what topic they are addressing, because I hate to mess up the cadence and the flow of voting in the commission and so forth. So I'm all about the.
Okay, so you're offering the amendment that we would include on that form, and the speaking on whatever topic they wish would be right after the minutes is how we suggested, just so that we knew where it was every time and it was before any real action items happened on the commission. So is that what you're suggesting? Will you accept that?
That's a good suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
So yes, you accept that as part of your motion?
I do.
All right, and you'll
Yes,
accept that as a second. Okay, so now, everybody understand what we're voting on? It was to let for and against, no matter how many it was, but no more than 3 minutes per person, whatever the time ran out to be, we're going to fill out the form acknowledging that they want to speak. Part of that form will be what topic they're interested in, and we'll sort them accordingly, and we'll go through that process before we actually go any further then on the commission agenda or the committee agenda. Is Commissioner Epperson?
I'm fine with doing it before. I don't care which way we do it. But only thing I could see maybe might be a little bit of confusion was if we had like 3 topics that was controversial and they might want to speak on 2 of them. How would they know, like, if they're getting in the for or the against line, or?
Well, it would be my expectation they would fill out a form for, if they wanted to talk on more than one topic. In my opinion, the clock resets on the different issue. Or that would be my interpretation. So if they want to speak on more than one issue, even if it's for one issue and against another issue, it would be sorted accordingly. Do you agree with that?
I do, and one of the things that I thought about would be, Mr. Chairman, maybe you would have the discretion to, if we know that, we all know what the controversial topics are when they hit our agenda. Maybe we'd give you the authority to set the public speaking part at another point in the meeting, given what Commissioner Epperson just mentioned.
Okay, I don't know if I quite understood it. Are you saying that if you had a person that was speaking on more than one issue, you wouldn't have them, they would drop back in the line. They wouldn't come up and say, wait a minute, I filled out 3 forms, so here, I'm speaking for this, and by the way, I wanted that. In my mind, then they would go back in the order, and they would come up accordingly. So are you okay with that?
I agree, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and you accept that. So does that clarify what you want to do? Okay, so what we restated, is that where we're at? Are we in agreement that we're going to let for and against, however many they are, 3 minutes apiece, whatever amount of time it takes, but they're going to fill out the form so we know, they're going to state the subject they want to speak on and whether for or against, so we know how to line them up. And their district obviously would be on there and all that, and they would present that by the time we call the meeting to order. Okay? Commissioner Mark Thomas.
I don't want to muddy the water, but if I fill out 3 forms against something, does that buy me 9 minutes?
The answer to that would be yes, in my view. Do you agree with that?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, on different topics.
Okay, it has to be a different topic.
Oh, yeah, right. 3 minutes on that topic, then you go back in the hopper,
Okay.
so to speak. You in agreement with that?
Yes.
No, no, he did, this version did not cap the time. His did, correct? You in agreement with that? Right, no max time. And again, this would also apply at committee, okay? Everybody understand what they're voting for? All right, when your name's called, vote for or against.
Just one little pearl. We can always change this if we
Correct.
have stepped off into a cliff.
Right, and I
we-
thought
we
I
can-
thought I
we
declared
can-
that from the beginning. Yeah, at any time you guys
You
can
agree with that,
adjust.
Mr. Maddox?
I do, Commissioner Yaki.
No, not in the middle of a meeting, but for future meetings, right? Which it would go through our process to, if that was what they want to do. Okay? So everybody understands what they're voting on? When your name's called, vote for or against. Yes is to do as we have outlined. No would be you want to consider something else. Okay?
Commissioner Boutwell,
No.
Commissioner Boyette,
Yes.
Commissioner Brothers, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Epperson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fair, Commissioner Hooker,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Maddox,
Yes.
Commissioner Neely,
Yes.
Commissioner Pinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders,
No.
Commissioner Smith.
Pass.
Did you say pass? I'm sorry. Okay. Commissioner Adam Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Mark Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Yaki. Does anyone wish to change your vote? 13 ayes, 2 noes, 1 pass.
Okay, so are we in agreement now? We're going to go into public comment. And of course, we're going to have to give grace on the form tonight. Some did actually, because they'd been at committee and knew that we were looking at having a process. So anyone in the audience, let's start it this way, wishing to speak on an item that's on the agenda tonight, whether you're for or against it, would you raise your hand and let me see if I can do some quick sorting? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, let me try this again for just tonight. What do we think the first item is? Okay, well, let me have one of them. Okay, well, I recognize you. Please stand up and tell me what item you want to speak on, and we're going to start with that one through everybody that's interested in that item. Are you okay with that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, the suggestion would possibly be just to have folks go ahead and line up on the wall on each side. It's up to you.
When you say on each side of the wall, would that be for or against? And then what about the topic that they want to speak on?
That is an excellent question, Mr. Chairman.
So that's why I thought I'd start with, I recognize him, so we'll have him, whatever his topic is everybody in agreement for tonight's purposes? Everybody related to that topic, we're going to get through this before we go to the next one. Is that acceptable to? Okay, so if you would come up to the podium, and if someone is showing him about holding the button, you got to hold the button continuously for it to be live. If you take your finger off the button at the bottom, you will no longer be heard. Here. And so if you would tell us what the item is that you're interested in, and tell us who you are.
Yes,
and,
sir.
Then that will get the ball rolling, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here.
Should I lean down like this, or if I project well enough, does that cover? Okay.
We're hearing you.
You can hear me well?
Yeah.
Great. The item I'm speaking in favor of is the elimination of the distance requirement between the markets of Bedford Market, Sunchaser Market, and Halls Mill Market. My name is Keith Weaver. I'm the president and CEO of Nearest Green Distillery, co-founder of Uncle Nearest, the fastest growing whiskey or bourbon company in the world to this point. And I'm just here to first say thank you. I don't get out very, very often. I'm busy. Thanks to all of the support of you. We have really, really great leadership in this county. What I'm excited about is that tourism is picking up. And so at the distillery, we're tracking towards 1 million guests a year by 2026, which will make us one of the top 3 most visited distilleries in the world. But the reason why I'm here in favor of these markets, which actually they're my evil competition in some way, because I can already sell beer and wine and drinks by the glass. But what it's really done for tourism has been extraordinary. We have a principle at our company. Some might say we're a purpose-driven company, but it's to drink honorably. And so long as you're doing that, it's really been a boon to tourism. At Nearest Green Distillery, we enjoy about 5,000 to 8,000 guests per week. and we're only partially open at this point. We're open Thursday through Sunday. And I'm just excited for people to enjoy all the resources that we have. My wife and I, who runs things, Fawn Weaver, she's our CEO and co-founder, and I made my wife my official boss, technically. But we have so many great resources here. The Duck River, one of the most biodiverse rivers in the country, is here. People want to enjoy it. I want for people to benefit from the revenue and the economic development that happens and the job creation here, and to feed into what we're creating at Nearest Green Distillery. So I would be just remiss in not coming here and lifting up this issue. And certainly, we've built a world-class performance venue. There's so much music here. There's so many activities, outdoor activities, and people are coming to our distillery and this other little distillery down the road, and I just want them to fully benefit from what we have to offer here. So with that, I will be brief and respectful of the time. 3 minutes. Cutting it short. I'm cutting it short. But I just wanted to say thank you. And even though I'm not here routinely, I really, again, would lift up the level of leadership we have. And Fawn and I, we came from the West Coast, don't judge us, from LA. But we left all of that to be here. And I think it's a very, very great decision on our part. So thank you all.
Thank you. All right. Now, he was for the item on the agenda, which would be to reduce the distance rule, to do away with it.
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. I thought that's where we were. I got that infomercial. It had me messed up a minute. But so on the idea of trying to alternate back and forth, is there someone in the audience that wants to speak that's on the beer matter but would be against it? And if that's the case, please stand up and come to the front, and let's try that same process.
I hope I'm pushed the button. I'm Steve Bobo. I am an elder at the Flat Creek Church of Christ, and I am against or opposing the fact that you're trying to change the laws to limit the sale of beer within, I think it's 2,000 feet of schools, churches, or other places of public gathering, or interfering with public health, safety, and morale. We're in the Bible Belt, folks. It seems like if you don't like the laws, people move in here and they try to change the laws where it allows them, and they use terms like to compete, to thrive, providing additional tax revenue. I looked at and I don't know who's it can't add this. I'm very good at math, but in the Time Gazette article, it was stated in the last time, I think it was a hypothetical situation where 2 sandwiches, a bag of chips, a bag of ice, a 12-pack of beer is going to get you $3.50 additional tax revenue. And there's going to be 5 of those in a day. That's $17.50 for one day. There's 365 days in a year if you're open that many times. So that's $6,000, but I think the paper said 5,000. But then it said for the 3 places that want to have this reduced to 0, that's going to add $45,000 to $60,000. How do you get 5 times 3 to 45? That math don't work. And again, it's a hypothetical situation. The other part in here was that they said all of that revenue is going to go to another county. No, it's not. It's going to go to Walmart or Kroger or some other store locally. I mean, to me, the purpose of this law is one thing. It's helped to save our kids. The influence today in society by television, radio, the internet, God, you can see anything and everything that you want. How perverse it is, it doesn't matter. And that seems to be okay. Our society is changing from a standpoint that if you're 90 years old, you're against this. If you're 80-year-old, you're against this. If you're 70 years old, you're against this because that's how we were brought up. I'm 67, going on 68, and I'm in that class that's teetering whether I'm for it or against it. Most 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, they could care less because they've seen too much TV, they've seen too much internet, and they don't see how stopping beer sales next to a church or a school or the public gathering is going to help anything. It will. The one thing that I would like to know, I don't know, is this: are you going to allow beer to be consumed at these places that are doing it? Because it was very unclear, because if you're going to allow premise consumption, that means you're going to have a beer joint or tavern. And I don't mean to be saying ill things to the people that want that. Not up.
Yes, sir. If
Okay.
you could just wrap
But
up your
I'm
final
against
point.
it. But please help protect our children from the influence of this. They don't need it, whether they're in the school bus passing or what. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now, we're still on the beer distance matter. Someone that wants to speak that's for reducing the distance, if you'll come up.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Strassman. For those of you who don't know me, I'm one of the owners of Sun Chaser Market. I was here about 2.5 years ago, and I've been at several of the committee meetings since we started this journey again. I would say 13 nights ago, you guys all met, and there's a lot of discussion about it's tough right now for the citizens of Bedford County economically. And you voted at that point in time to not raise property taxes because you wanted to kind of protect that and provide some relief. I'm here now as a small business owner with the same type of plea that we had several years ago. It's hard to be a small business these days. There are 3 types of businesses that we're seeing these days. You have the high-end businesses, coffee shops, restaurants, where you're getting the craft beer or craft cocktail. You also have the middle-of-the-road ones, Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's. They're able to go after lots of quantity, limited menu. And then we have the heartbeat, small businesses. Small businesses where your community leaders meet, where moms and dads stop and get burgers, dogs, whatever they need as they're on their way to school in the morning. Sorry, we're on our way to a baseball game at night. Those are the ones where the first responders meet. That's where the volunteers meet. More importantly, that's where our new members of the community come and meet to make fellowship and figure out how do they navigate the great world of Bedford County that they moved here to meet, to integrate with and make their homes. My ask of you tonight, which is a little different than what it was 2.5 years ago, is really think in support of those small businesses. One of the members that you'll hear from hopefully a little bit later who owns Hall's Mill is a new business owner for Hall's Mill. Hall's Mill was with us when we started this journey 2.5 years ago. They're not in business anymore. You see businesses on the square that have changed hands. You see businesses in the county change hands. I know there's lots of options for how you guys are going to discuss this tonight. It's not a resolution that's on the actual agenda. I think there's a discussion topic to be had and a path move forward. So my appreciation would be for you guys to be grateful and thoughtful about how do you help small businesses contribute and compete? Because anywhere here in Shelbyville, there is no distance rule. We just want to compete the same way as well as some of our partners in the other counties. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, so that was for reducing the distance. So is there someone that wants to, all right, sir, if you'll come up, you're going to be opposed to reduction of the distance rule, is that right? All right, we'll come right on up.
All right, my name is Ray Foster, and I live down there towards Wheel, and I go to New Bethel Baptist Church. And we got a store right across from us, and I don't feel that need to be putting a selling beer there that close to the church or any schools. I just don't see it's right. That church has been there for 150-something years. And then all of a sudden, you got a store there, and then they want to sell beer. And I have lost 3 siblings to alcoholism, and I just don't care anything about it. And it just induces alcoholism, and it's just not right, to come out of a church or a school and see people coming out with a bunch of 6-packs and cases of beer as people are coming out of church and have to see this, and the kids have to see it too as they're coming out of school. I just don't think that's right. If you're having some hard times with your businesses, You can sell everything like donuts and coffee and stuff like that. A lot of people like to stop for that stuff. But, you know, that beer, I've lost 3 siblings because of it, and I'm strictly against it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Can someone work that blind in the far right corner to see if they can knock the sun out of it there for us? All right, so now we're back on, we're still on the same topic of the beer distance, and we're on the 4 side. So is there someone that wants to, all right, absolutely, come forward, my lady. Did that get it? Okay, that fixed it for her, she's okay there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miss Beth from Halls Mill Market, and thank you for having us tonight. We appreciate your time. And just one of the things I just want to touch on is we're entering, we've made it our first year there at Halls Mill and on the Duck River, and feed many people and have met so many wonderful people in our town. And one of the things that I've noticed is that I've met 6 families that have owned that business, that have run it as a restaurant in the past 23 years, 6 people. The building has been there since 1920. It was originally run as a mill there on the river. So 23 years ago, the first family turned it into a restaurant, and they tried to get beer, and they were unsuccessful. And so were the families thereafter. And so we just, you know, truly believe that that will help the growth of our business being on the river with absolutely no disrespect to the church or to anyone that has ever lost anyone to alcohol. We are good Christian people. We have high values and morals, and enjoy being part of the Bedford County community. So I'm just going to keep it real short and really do appreciate your time and consideration on the matter. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone additional? All right, if you come forward, sir. You got to press and hold.
My name is Frank Bobo, Flat Creek Church of Christ. I've been going there for 61 years. Brother Jason's prayer a while ago was, the Lord give y'all knowledge to and the will to do what is right. Please take that advice when you do it. Please. The Lord, I've been going there 61 years, and I've never heard a sermon saying the Lord wants beer sold at Flat Creek Market. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, again, we're back to the 4 side of it. Is there anyone else on the 4 side regarding the distance rule that would want to speak? Okay, I don't see any. Does anybody see something I don't? All right. So is there anybody left on the against side that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am, come forward.
My name's Donna Foster. I live at 109 Whitaker Road. I attend New Bethel Baptist Church. Across from our church is the Bedford Market. When we moved here 4 years ago, that was a thriving market. And after it's sold, they're having problems. But I don't think beer is going to solve their problems. It's not right for our children to come out of church with liquor under their arms when we're trying to teach them moral things, how to live a decent life. There's too many things hurting our children now, and we don't need to add on the Christians. Taxes too, just like every. And Hall's Mill, if they're new, they knew that when they moved in there, or was a church. Think about those. I'm just asking y'all to do what's morally right. You want my tax money? You want my vote? you better listen to me, because if you don't vote for what I want, I'm not gonna vote for you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're back on the fours.
All right, guys, my name is Chuck Baker on Halls Mill Market. And I want to make it clear that we're not here to sell beer to minors, children. We're talking about a beer permit for adults. That's all we're asking for, is a fair playing ground. Understand why it's such a difficult task.
All right, thank you. Again, is there anyone else in the audience that would be on the against? Okay, I don't see any. Go right back to the, is there anybody that's changed their mind that's on the four that wants to speak? Okay, so we're in agreement that we have exhausted the beer component. All right, now, is there anyone else in the audience that has another item that's on the agenda tonight that they're going to speak on? If you'll raise your hand. Wow. Okay, I don't see anybody on any other topic that's on the agenda tonight. Everybody look with me. Stand up, wave your hand, throw something. We're good? All right, so then we're on to the next item on the agenda. This was the public comment component. And so we're ready for elections and confirmations. So next item is election notaries for August 2023.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We're open for discussion or any comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, presentations, we have none here tonight. Under resolutions, we have resolution 24-8, and this is the Bedford County 231 corridor study transportation plan. It was a grant that was done, and this resolution would be just acknowledging that it would become part of the Planning Commission's tools as they do their.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All right, we're open for discussion regarding this. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're on to the next item. Rules and Legislative Committee, I'm just trying to make sure I'm out of order tonight. All right, so we've already taken care of number 5, so we're on to number 6. Consideration of a petition from Bedford Market, Sunchaser Market, and Halls Mill Market to reduce the 2,000-foot distance rule to 0-foot distance from a church, school, or public gathering place to sell beer.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve this. We're open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, with the consent and concurrence of Commissioner Epperson, who seconded the motion, I'd like to amend this item. Mr. Chairman, with your permission.
Wait a minute, I believe it was Commissioner Pinson that seconded it, but is that correct? Okay. All right, now, go ahead.
Well, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to yield the floor to the clerk to read the amendment, please, and the restated resolution.
Okay, so it would read this way. A resolution for consideration of a petition to reduce or eliminate the 2,000-foot distance rule to 0 footage for the sale of beer in Bedford County, amended and restated. Whereas a petition was provided to the Bedford County Board of Commissioners requesting a zoning resolution modification regarding the sale of beer in Bedford County, and whereas such a change would require an applicable zoning resolution amendment to be approved by the Bedford County Board of Commissioners, and whereas it is the responsibility of the Bedford County Regional Planning Commission to originate and recommend said zoning resolution to the Bedford County Board of Commissioners, and whereas it is generally accepted that the fullest possible protection of liberty and property rights are both the strict limitations and the overarching duties of government. It is therefore in the best interests of public health, safety, morals, public convenience, general prosperity, and the general welfare of the residents of Bedford County that such requested amendments all be developed in such a way as to provide for the realistic protection to schools, places of worship, and places of public assembly, as well as the economic protection for the at-risk rural village marketplace. Therefore, be it resolved, the Bedford County Board of Commissioners refers said request to the Bedford County Regional Planning Commission, and requests such zoning resolution language to be drafted by the Planning Commission and upon completion be favorably recommended to the Board of Commissioners in the same manner as all zoning resolutions. And further be it resolved, the Bedford County Regional Planning Commission specifically addressed language which would create separate and distinct applicable zoning requirements and classifications for A, carry-out sales of alcohol or otherwise referred to as off-premise consumption in the most appropriate rural commercial zoning classification, for example, C1 zoning, and B, the more intensive table sales of alcohol or premise consumption in the most applicable urban commercial classification, for example, C2 zoning, effectively disallowing any lawful on-premise consumption of alcohol in areas not abutting or very near any of Bedford County's corporate municipal boundaries or along roadways classified as arterial.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Chairman, what we are trying to accomplish here is at some point we have to have some type of zoning regulation if we move forward on this. The correct way to do that is send it to the Planning Commission, let the Planning Commission draw up these zoning regulations so that we can address all the specific needs. Then we have a very specific thing to vote on as it comes back to the regular process through the Planning Commission and to our Rules Committee, where we will discuss and debate that there and then on to the floor. So I would urge my colleagues to approve this amended and restated resolution to send to the Planning Commission. We are not going to vote tonight on a yes or no for the beer. All we are going to vote on is the amended and restated resolution being sent to the Planning Commission. That is the only thing we're voting for, to send it to the Planning Commission.
All right, yeah, let me clarify or make sure I understand what you've just done. Your motion in a second, and whoever was the second that understands that what was read originally, the consideration of the petition for Bedford Market, Sunchaser Market, Hallsville Market to reduce the 2,000-foot rule to a 0 footage distance from churches, schools, is not what your motion in second was. It was for what was written that was going to send it to the Planning Commission.
That is exactly correct, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Does everybody understand that? Okay. And the second to that was, who was the second on it? You were, did you accept, is that what you understood you're doing? Okay, so on the floor, you have a motion and a second. Basically, after hearing what was read, this would not be a vote up or down tonight on the distance rule. It would be a vote to send it to the Planning Commission for proper structure and I guess resent back at some point to this body. Is that right?
That's correct.
Commissioner Hooker. Yeah, if Commissioner Vick is approving of it, I would like to add a C to that very bottom that would request that the Planning Commission consider schools as a separation of this particular thing. I think it's been stated that that is a potential. I'd like them to research that, because what we have in District 1 is we have a new approved zoning request that we approved a couple months ago right directly across from Cascade Elementary. That is on a main road. So in this particular document, that would be looked at as a potential okay, as being able to have beer sales or consumption. So what I would like to see is maybe a C added on that to make sure that we could investigate separating out schools and churches and gathering places to be able to keep 2,000 feet to schools, because I think it's extremely important to be able to protect those. And again, I'm not opposed to some of the language that's in here, so if we would look at maybe adding a C to that, I think it would be something that I could be able to support.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Hooker. Mr. Chairman.
I was going to ask you, would you accept his amendment?
I think, Mr. Chairman, in the whereas clause, we talk about in the best interest of public health, safety, morals, public convenience, general prosperity, general welfare, to protect schools, places of worship, and places of public assembly is addressed in there. So I think that is a major concern, but I don't really want to hamstring the Planning Commission and give them any angle in there that might not comply with state statutes. So I respectfully decline Commissioner Hooker's request in there because I think we've stated it in there, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So he doesn't accept that. Do you want to make a different motion?
No, I'd like to just make a counter argument. I understand it's stated, and we're not hamstringing. I'm not saying that it has to be a yes or no. What I'm asking for is that the Planning Commission take that as a consideration, be able to compare that with state law to see if that is something that would be legally able to be done, because I think we're sending the wrong message that we are not protecting our schools. The thing is if you're telling me that this document will allow or potentially allow the Planning Commission to be able to sell alcohol sales within 2,000 feet of a school, I don't know how you can go home at night, because at the end of the day, I understand we want to protect businesses, but more importantly, we need to protect our students. And if that's not something that you'll accept, I'm glad that's on the record.
All right, now Commissioner Mark Thomas.
No matter how this, if we vote for this, it will come back from that committee before this commission to be voted on to put it into effect, right?
It's my understanding the Planning Commission does not have the authority to adopt something without it coming back to the commission ultimately. Does my
So
parliamentarian-
no matter
So,
whatever
correct.
they bring back to us, we'll have time to review and we can make our arguments at that point, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, and it'll have to go to Rules and Legislative and come to here.
Correct, and we're in agreement with that. Commissioner Scott Johnson.
Yeah, and I would address the school issue and the other one, we can address that in the Planning Commission hearings. If those of us that agree with you on that, we could do it then and at Rules and Legislative as well. So.
Thank you for that,
I understand
Commissioner
what you're
Johnson.
saying there, yeah.
And on the ultimate vote here on the floor when it comes back. Okay, yeah, Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I don't really fully understand. It kind of seems like it's a cut and dry issue. I'm not going to go into one way or the other for or against, but right now, I don't really understand the whole send it to the planning committee portion. I mean, is there some discussion that I'm not aware of? Are we looking for opportunities to maybe push this through? Or I know everything would come back to us for a vote, but everything just seems kind of cut and dry already. Why aren't we muddying the waters to send something to the planning commission?
All right, and Commissioner Yaki.
We tried this one other time not too long ago, Commissioner Maddox, and the whole issue of all of this is package sales are one thing, consumption is another thing. And in the rural parts of the county, those can flavor more or less as the age group, somebody said tonight, as the age group wants. I wish it could be changed at the state level, which is where it needs to be changed, as a separate license, one for package sales and another, or both, consumption sales. But the way it is right now, with a beer license, you have the option to package sale or over-the-counter or serve, period, end of sentence. And that's what the whole problem is. I wish, again, the state could resolve this rather than us arguing every few years about this. But back to Commissioner Maddox's question on it, we tried this several months ago or a year ago with the overlays, and the overlays hopefully helping this situation. But what it all boils down to in the end, even coming from the Planning Commission and whatever they send us, the 2,000-foot rule is gone. It is then up to this body or a suggestion from the Planning Commission to either say, okay, we won't let it be close to a church. Well, how is too close? We won't let it be close to community center. Well, how close? We won't let it be close to any other place of gathering. How close is that? So then it becomes subjective. So in answer to your question, that was tried, and the answer was that will do away with your 2,000-foot rule. And if I'm not correct on this, we have a county attorney here.
Would you like for him to weigh in on that? It has been our conversation. Go ahead, sir.
That is correct. Under the current law, if you do away with the 2,000-foot rule, you can have consumption on the premises as well as package sales. If you and you cannot do anything as long as that rule is in place. If you do away with that rule, but that's a big if. If you do away with the 2,000-foot rule, then by zoning you can restrict consumption on the premises and allow package sales. That's the real gut issue right there. If you want neither, leave it like it is. If you want the flexibility, you must remove the 2,000-foot rule conditioned upon the zoning having a provision that on-premise consumption is not allowed under the zoning classification for that particular business. That's it in a nutshell.
Mr. Chairman, though, just to remind everyone, we're voting to send this to the Planning Commission. That's all we're voting on, and let them come back with a recommendation so that we can then discuss it through committee system and on the floor. So that's all we're asking for. Send it to the Planning Commission. That's it.
That's what your motion and the second on the floor is for, correct? So, yeah, Commissioner Farrow.
Mr. Chair, this is, I don't recall this ever happening. This is more an amendment. I don't agree with any of that. This needs to go back to the rules, and you're in the rules, Commissioner Vick, and I don't have any problem with that, but to pull this off when this other vote is sitting here to be voted on, I don't think it's ever been done this way, and I'm not for listening to what you're suggesting, but it needs to, this needs to be voted up and down, what's already on the agenda. This is more an amendment. You're offering a resolution, which is completely different. And this needs to be done through committees, not here on the floor, not surprising everybody in here with another resolution. That's not appropriate in my mind. I guess you can do anything you want to if you get 10 votes, but I am not for this. I think the other needs to be voted on. If you want to bring this, and you and Commissioner Pinson, then fine. But we're getting two things muddled up here, and this needs to be voted up and down, and we've had this statute for 40-something years. And I'm not for changing it. There's a lot of other matters that goes into this that needs to be discussed in committee, not changing something in the 11th hour on the floor of the commission. I don't recall it being done in 20 years. And I'm not for it. I'm for voting this up and down, and then if you want to bring this to the rules, and then we'll study it and go from there.
All right, thank you. I was just clarifying with parliamentarian. The motion and the second on the floor, which was the only thing that's come on the floor to this point, was the amended resolution, whatever the right term is, for what he's proposing. When we vote for or against, if it is defeated, what's on the before you now, then it goes back to the item that was on the agenda for potentially, if somebody wants to make a motion a second, back to it. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Okay, so if you vote yes, it would be to send it, basically to clarify it, that would be sending it to the Planning Commission. That's what the motion currently on the floor is, and the second. If you vote no, and you are the majority, then we're back to the item as it was presented on the agenda originally. Does everybody understand that? Do you agree with that, parliamentarian? Okay, so everybody understand where we're at? Is there any other comments before we, yes, Commissioner Neely.
Okay, one question I have. It states on here the 3 markets, but if we change this applies to every area of the county, new businesses, old businesses, it will apply to everything, is that correct?
Yes, that is right. The 2,000, and is it my understanding, and once you change the 2,000-foot rule, you can't take it back? Whatever the distance that was last allowed, it becomes the position?
If you change it and there's interim action, you can't change it back more restrictive and knock them out. So once you change it, it's changed for anything that's done during that period of time. And to expand what you said, it would apply countywide if those particular areas were zoned in that classification that would allow that.
But currently that zoning does not exist.
That's right. You still wouldn't be able to go out. You can eliminate the rule, and you can't go out in agriculture and open a beer store.
But point of clarification, Mr. Chairman, we're not voting on that. We're voting to send it to the Planning Commission to be discussed before it comes back up here. So we're not voting on the beer amendment, yes or no, tonight, on this particular amendment.
At this point, assuming that you have 10 votes for your motion and second, then it would go to planning. If it does not, then you're back to what's on the document. Is that
question?
All right, I'll call for the question. Do you want to continue discussion?
Yes.
Okay, raise your hand if you want to continue discussion. I got to have, what is it, 10 or 2/3? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to continue. Right, okay. So I believe Commissioner Johnson had his hand.
Just for a point of clarification after Commissioner Fair's comments, if this goes to the Planning Commission, is it automatically going to go to Rules and Legislative after that?
It's my understanding that it does.
That would be the pathway that it would come back on the agenda here to this body.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hooker.
I want to challenge every one of y'all to go talk to your people. Because I can tell you, everybody I talk to is against this. We get these handful of people that come up here every meeting. We've heard it over and over, these 3 markets. I understand business is tough. But I'm going to tell you, go talk to your people. You're going to have a couple months to be able to do this, because when you come back, if you're going to sit here and support a resolution that a commissioner that's going to put this through is not willing to separate out schools, I have heartburn, and I'm sure you can tell. The problem is we need to quit voting the way that the handful of people that show up and continue to bug us. The problem is we need to vote for the majority of what the people want. Get out in your district and talk to people, because I can tell you, your eyes will be open, and this resolution will be a much different situation.
All right, are you ready to vote? So, clarification, if you vote yes, it's going to the planning. If you vote no, we're back to this item, and then it'll be a matter of whether there's a motion. I'm sorry, Commissioner Epperson, I didn't realize.
And even if it goes to planning, we don't have to accept what they send back or
Correct,
right? It'll go
correct.
through, okay.
Any other questions before we vote? Understanding yes would be, yeah, Commissioner Maddox.
Just to make sure, it was stated earlier that if it is sent to planning, then that does away with the 2,000-foot rule, though. Is that correct or not correct?
That might be their
Correct.
proposal. That'd be only if it comes back here and you agree to it. That might be what they recommend, but they can't dissolve it by themselves. Is that correct? That may very well be what they would recommend back, though. Okay, any other questions? You understand? Everybody understands what you're voting on. Right now, you're voting on his motion and second, which was to amend what was originally being considered.
Mr. Mayor, another point of clarification somebody raised. If it goes back to planning, they can propose a modification of our overall zoning resolution to include a new classification. But in my opinion, that would then, planning does not have an automatic right to get on the agenda. It would be appropriate to go back to Squire Farrell's Rules and Legislative, and they would either up or down it to get it on the agenda. And then it would ultimately have to be decided here if you wanted to do any kind of zoning resolution or removal of the 2,000. So that is the process.
Okay, are we ready to vote? All right, when your name's called, vote for or against.
Commissioner Yaki,
No.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
No.
Commissioner Mark Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Thomas,
No.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Sanders,
Yes.
Commissioner Pinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Neely,
No.
Commissioner Maddox,
No.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hooker,
No.
Commissioner Fair,
No.
Commissioner Epperson,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyette,
No.
Commissioner Boutwell.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change your vote? Someone wants to change?
Yes, ma'am, pass.
Eight ayes, 7 noes, 1 pass.
Okay, so that doesn't carry. So am I correct that we're back to what was originally on the agenda? All right, so what's the wishes of the body? Is there a motion to approve that, or you want to?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we need a second now.
Second.
Okay, so Boyette was the second. Biff was the motion. So now we have a motion and second on the floor for as it was originally put on the agenda, which is consideration of petition from Bedford Market, Sunchaser Market, Halls Mill Market to reduce the 2,000-foot distance rule to 0 footage distance from a church, school, or public gathering place to sell beer. Does everybody understand what you're voting on? Is there any comments before? Yeah, Commissioner Maddox.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to be clear that this is not just for these locations. This would be covering all locations for the entire county.
These folks are the ones that put the petition asking the commission to reconsider the 2,000-foot rule, but the rule would apply countywide if you were to adopt it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Commissioner Big.
Mr. Chairman, in 1877, this state adopted a 2-mile rule. That meant that no bawdry house or saloon could be operated within 2 miles of a public building or school or church. In 1893, it became such a political issue that governor's races, U.S. Senate races, local races all hinged, were you dry or were you wet? There were political parties formed. There was bloodshed over this issue. There have been numerous incidents in which government has interjected itself into business, and this is the prime example of how government should not be involved in a business. Ronald Reagan said in his inaugural address, government is not the solution, government is the problem. When the government decided to introduce prohibition, do you know that it shut down Jack Daniel's distillery? They had to close up and leave Lynchburg on the Louisville, Nashville, the St. Louis, Nashville, and Chattanooga Railway and move to St. Louis. George Dickel had to move to Kentucky, where they stayed until 1958. Jack Daniel's did come back when they released the prohibition in 1933. By 1936, the General Assembly, in its infinite wisdom, decided they had done enough with this issue. They had created enough havoc and enough problems that they wanted to get out of this whole issue. So what they said was, in typical fashion, you can make up your own mind as to what you want on your distance in your county. Whatever you want to make it, you can make it. But if you can't make it, and this is the sop that they threw to the dries, if you can't make your decision, it's going to be 2,000 feet. That's been the rule in this state since 1936. In 1986, the county commission here voted on this, and it was much debated like it was tonight, and consequently no decision could be reached, and it's remained that since 1986. In 1936 or 1986, there was no zoning. There was no acceptable plan how you could administer, how you could work with, or how you could qualify businesses. We have that zoning ability now. We need to give the Planning Commission the authority to develop these type of tools in their handbook. Now, I heard Commissioner Hooker talk about schools, and he's right. But I've also heard lots of people call me and call different people in my district that are wanting to put in hotels, that are wanting to put in restaurants, family restaurants, like a Red Lobster or Applebee's, and they're here and they're coming, and hotels have bars, and hotels sell alcohol. And we're penalizing them if we do not have some type of plan in place to accommodate that. Looking at this as a problem on one market is a huge mistake, and I'm afraid that's what people have said. And you've heard people say, they knew it when they bought it, then that's what they should have gotten. Well, rules have changed, the laws have changed, and society has evolved. We are putting one arm behind our small business people by not letting them sell a product that is a legal product and that they are rightfully able to sell. And instead of giving them an opportunity to compete, we are in effect subsidizing Walmart, Kroger's, and all the big box, Dollar General, and all that bunch, giving them an advantage. And that's what we're doing, is penalizing small business. And if this commission wants to consistently be pro-business, which I think that they are, we need to help small business, not subsidize the big box companies and the big companies out there that continually punish the small business. So, Mr. Chairman, I am unequivocally for doing this and doing away with this limit, and would encourage my fellow commissioners to vote so.
Okay. Commissioner Fair.
Mr. Chair, when I said I was voting, I was wanting to call for question, and I'm certainly against the 2,000. I'm for the 2,000-foot distance. I'm against going to 0. So I could have misspoken. I was calling for a question, and
Okay, yeah, and I understand. Yes, what is actually before you is asking you to reduce it to 0. So yes would be to reduce it, okay, to the 0. No would be basically leaving it like it currently is. You understand that, Commissioner Hooker?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody in this room that now that we are moved on from the amendment, we are now voting on the 2,000-foot rule that goes into effect for churches, schools, and all gathering places. I hope that each one of you are held accountable to your vote, because I'm going to tell you, this is going on the record of how you vote, and I hope people hold you accountable for this. Because if you put your name beside allowing beer sales, and remember, consumption goes along with this, that they can drink a beer across from Cascade Elementary. If you can sleep at night with that, then vote for it.
All right, any other comments? Commissioner Epperson.
I would like to agree with Commissioner Yaki. I would like to see this changed on the state level where it's two separate things. And so, you know, hopefully that might be an outlet for these small businesses to try to talk to their state representatives and get that changed, because I think that would help. But
Right, but understand that what you're about to vote on would
Right.
be to reduce or remove the distance rule, carrying it to 0. So yes would be to remove it, go to 0. No would be to leave it as it is. Does everybody understand what they're voting on? Okay, when your name's called, vote for or against.
Commissioner Boutwell,
For Cascade Elementary, I'll vote no.
Commissioner, Commissioner Boyette,
No.
Commissioner Epperson,
no.
Commissioner Farrer,
No.
Commissioner Hooker,
No.
Commissioner Johnson,
No.
Commissioner Maddox,
No.
Commissioner Neely,
No.
Commissioner Pinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders,
No.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Thomas,
No.
Commissioner Mark Thomas,
No.
Commissioner Thompson,
No.
Commissioner Vick,
Yes.
Commissioner Yaki.
No.
Does anyone wish to change your vote? 3 ayes, 13 noes.
Okay, so it did not pass. So the 2,000-foot rule is still in effect. All right, next item on the agenda is nothing to report in law enforcement or courthouse and property finance had a spectrum contracts greater than 1 year is why it comes before you.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, so a motion is second, we're open for discussion. All right, hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, next is surplus for the Board of Education, should have been in your packet.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second, Epperson. All right. All right, any question or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, and then we're on to quarterly reports that failed tonight. All right, so Clerk and Master, I don't believe I saw Kurt here, so we'll move on. Circuit, I believe she had a report in the packet for you, but I don't believe she's present. Jump up if you are, I missed you. All right, and next County Clerk, I'm pretty sure she's right beside me.
I am right here, and I'll make this brief. The report that you have in front of you is the report for the entire year 2022, 2023. You can see the totals there. Total collected through our office, $5.8 million. That was down because the state registration fees were down. Everybody got a discount. That has changed as of July 1st, so we'll see that number start to go back up. 78,000, almost 79,000 transactions through our office. Bottom line on revenue for Bedford County, over $1 million was collected that stays in Bedford County. Total transactions were up 7% from last year. Total collections down 3% because of that state discount. And then revenue for Bedford was up 20% over last year. And I will just add that $60,000 of that was passport revenue. Passports are crazy. I've told you that before. And it's bringing in a lot of people from Rutherford County, Davidson County, Spring Hill, Cookeville. We're seeing them from all over the state coming into Bedford County to submit their passport applications. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
All right, any questions for her? All right. Next is, let me get my stuff here. Directors of Schools, and she's here.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the support of the schools. We always appreciate your support. We are big into construction right now, thanks to all of you and our school board. We appreciate that. If you've not been down Fairfield Pike, make sure that you go down because we have some walls up. We are planning for a build at Thomas and at Liberty. The architects have been out there, so we appreciate that. Bell Construction, some of those folks have been helping us out with that so we can get those plans rolling. We will start back to school soon. The teachers come July 25th. Students come for an abbreviated day August the 1st. Our first full day is August the 3rd. So I will keep it brief. We have not received our scores back. They have been coming in little by little. It looks at about 33 categories so far. We have improved in 30. Our attendance rate significantly improved. If you recall, we hired a truancy officer that has helped. And so we know if kids are here, we can learn. So we are excited about those results and look forward to our scores coming in.
Great. Hit your button. How about that?
Can you give us a report on summer school?
Yes, we had a successful summer school. We had a huge focus on third grade, getting those students to fourth grade. That went well. We have had lots of progress, lots of credits earned in summer school, and so it ended the last week of June, and so we had a lot of success with it.
All right. Yes, Commissioner Yockey.
Will the career counselors be on the job this year?
Yes, I just signed, and Mr. Daniel signed a contract for they have to have special training. That is the third week of July, and then they'll be on site this year.
How is it? Is Cascade community sharing? Is everybody got one?
Everyone has one.
Outstanding. Commissioner Hooker.
Yeah, with the new state rule with the retention for the third grade, how is that affecting us on numbers in the elementary schools? If there's additional students that we normally wouldn't have, or how is that affecting us?
I think we had about 17 who had to repeat. So when we first thought, you could see, you were thinking 200 or 300 or something like that, but it only ended up being about 17.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for? Thank you. You're doing a great job. Next is the election. I don't believe she's here, but she did have a document that I believe we put on the tables for you. And next is Highway Superintendent. I believe he is here.
Hello, I'll make this as brief as I can. I know it's getting pretty. We have our state transportation plan for county $3.2 billion.
Can you adjust your finger or something? It's cutting off and on. Put your thumb on it.
Can you hear me now? All right, I'm sorry. All right. I've been told my voice was loud enough anyway, so I apologize. But we have received through the state aid program at TDOT $3.2 million to go towards road paving here that we've got with the governor's transportation plan. The 4 roads that I have picked out to do is Fairfield Pike, Nashville Dirt Road, Horse Mountain Road, and Gant Road. Those are the 4 roads that is on that list to be done. Fairfield Pike will be first because we're going to try to get that done either before school in August or when the school kids get out for the horse show break. Is when they're planning on trying to come in there and do that, and Nashville Dirt Road will be second at that point. Just want to give kudos to my guys over the past weekend and thank the fire department and Mr. Thomas for them helping out. We had over 48 roads that weekend that got blocked off that my guys handled and the fire department handled the rest of them that come out. So it was a lot of work in a 24-hour period. Those guys do a very good job and we work a good team for it. The corridor study that y'all helped me approve that the highway department paid for, that has been completed. It will be a good tool for the future for the north end of the county to help with traffic concerns that we're going to have. in that area, so we have plans for all those areas. So do appreciate that and appreciate TDOT for funding that program for us. The signal on 82 and Edie Road will be bid in the spring of next year, with construction hoping to have it installed by fall of next year. That signal should be in operation at that point in time. At that point. Solid waste part now. This one will take a little bit, so we got some issues there that I want to talk about that's on social media, so I'm going to set the record straight tonight. Our centers are running great, but we are running about 10 to 20% more tonnage at our centers. That has been growing for the last basically 4 years of what we have there. The one thing that I want to touch base on tonight is, seems like this has been a big social media topic for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So we want to make sure that you understand, and I would appreciate in the future from you commissioners that before you get on social media and incite or tell out wrong information, that either call the mayor, who is in charge of solid waste, or call myself, who runs the solid waste department, and get the correct information to put out there. So I'm going to give you the correct information tonight on how that decision with the city's 96-gallon blue carts got refused at the centers. The first thing is the last 2 city managers I have met with, that is against city ordinance. Those blue carts that are at all city residents or belongs to the city, not the resident. It is earmarked with a serial number for each address in the city. The city taxpayers pay the city to dispose of the blue trash cart. The mayor and myself talked about this, and I opened it up to the mayor. We went over the city ordinance. The city managers, the last 2 city managers for the city of Shelbyville, have agreed for us not to accept those at the centers because they cannot leave the residences. They was in agreement with this. I met, 4 weeks, Mayor, with the new city manager, talked to him about this problem that they have and we have, because we're not supposed to accept those per our state permitting for the centers. The city manager agreed, said those do not leave the residences, so do not accept them, and they were supposed to put out a mass notice to all city residents that those carts belong to the city and they had to stay at the residence. You could not dispose of them in our centers. The city dropped the ball, didn't put it out, so I've been crucified over the 96-gallon carts. Those, the 96-gallon carts, 10 years ago, in my other life, I instituted the 96-gallon carts. I wrote the rules. I wrote the ordinance that was passed by the city council that those carts remain at those homes and residences. Met with the city manager today. He is in total agreement that we cannot accept the blue carts because it is a violation of the city ordinance. They have, which is city ordinance, as you know, when you pass an ordinance, that is law. He is going to make a statement at their Thursday night council meeting justifying the county, which is the mayor and myself, for refusing those carts. All city taxpayers can still bring their trash, like always, to the centers. The only thing that we stopped was the 96-gallon carts. The only thing. They can take the trash out of the carts and bring them to the centers, not a problem. We cannot have the carts brought in and dumped into the convenience centers. That's the entire story. Mayor, you got anything you want to add?
Well, what I would say in regards to that as well, that echoes that, once I became the mayor, I don't know if I really understood as clearly as I do, I think now, in regards to that. The convenience centers are permitted by the state of Tennessee, the TDEC. and they're permitted as residential waste only. And we even had the city of Normandy that wanted to pay somebody to go around and pick up their residents' trash for them and then take it to the center. That's a commercial component that you cannot do. The city of Shelbyville does not pick up their trash and then bring it to our centers and dispose of it. That's the commercial piece. As individuals, you can take your trash to the convenience centers. But if there's a commercial component, paying somebody to do it, then it's not permissible under the permitting for that to be disposed of in the residential convenience centers. Do you agree with that? Parliamentarian, do you?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that your understanding of that as well? So that is the clarification. It's not that the city, they absolutely pay county tax. They pay absolutely the same rate that you do. Okay, no question about that. But it's the commercial component that cannot be permitted. Okay, does that make more sense or clarify that? Any other comments or questions for the highway? I guess not, he walked off too. All right, up next, property assessor is, I don't think she was, I believe actually she's out of town. Register of Deeds had a report, I believe that's in our packet. I don't believe he's here. The trustee, I believe she is here.
I'm going to make this brief because I know all of the commissioners have been through a full budget first year. I do want to address the newly elected commissioners because this will be your first year-end report from the trustee's office. By law, the departments have up to the 10th. That's why you don't get my report ahead of time. So when you look at my report, you're going to see that I exhaust every effort to make it easy to the eye, a lot of graphs, a lot of comparisons, especially at the end of the year. They're not numbered because all of these do contain different reports. So, but I am going to say the first two reports you have, which is basically by law I have to present to you on double assessments, and then the other one's about assessor changes and deletions that you want to track. The first page is going to be the balance sheet, the second page, the fund report, and then the next 12 pages is going to be basically a detailed trustee report instead of a summary that you would get at a month end. You're going to also, after the 12 pages of that, you're going to go to a detailed trustee report, which is going to break down every fund number, and it's easy to the eye, front and back, that's going to show you exactly what took place, what was closed out completely. It shows everything we've done for the year and the zero balance out. Your next reports are going to be the property taxes collection. I'm all about those comparisons, so you've got 15 years, and I've also included the tax rate in there. So you can go back and look at 15 years of property taxes, the tax rate with current and prior years, and also the report will include whatever was turned over to the clerk and master office. The next report is going to be the LGIP investment. That's going to show you your average earning rate, and I did include last year comparison to this year, which interest looks much better. In that LGIP, there's going to be 3 different reports. The first will be the interest in the main account. The second is going to be the governor's grant. We've been having a lot of grants, so you're going to see that in that line item. And then the third is the opioid drug. So we've got another account, separate account with that. The next is going to be your credit card e-check payments. They have gone up just a little from 2.65 to 2.7. But when you look at that graph where we started 12 years ago, we are over close to $800,000. So people are truly, even though there is a rate that I don't agree, 2.7 now plus $1, e-checks are 1.95 plus $1. But the graph is certainly showing what people are doing for us using online, or they can actually call our office and pay their taxes. The next is going to be your mixed drink from the city and how that's split out. the county portion, and then the sales tax collection, it's going to show you March, April, May. It's going to be the local option. It's then going to show you the state of Tennessee, the revenue, and then I've also included online, out-of-state, in-state, internet, Amazon. So that's just, anything you want to see for sales tax and what we generate. Archives, that's going to be your final report on the very back. Briefly, I just wanted the income just to announce that $33,460 the state has now for our tax relief, elderly, disabled, and our veterans. I want to thank you from my heart that you voted to match what the state's going to pay, and what a tremendous impact and what that is going to do for our elderly, our most vulnerable. Thank you. From that, that's all I have to say.
Questions for, Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, on the elderly tax break, if somebody asks us about this, we just direct them to you?
Yes, we take care of it completely.
Okay, thank you.
And I encourage, because when the taxes come, we get our tax bill out earlier than any trustee that I know, first week of September. And the reason we do that, it gives the elderly an extra month to make partial payments. So, and yes, I encourage our elderly to take that. It'll help them.
All right, any other comments for our
And I
trustee?
do want to say in closing, anytime in the trustee's office, if there's any question of any report, I would gladly like to show off those reports. So,
Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say a huge kudos to this office for their report. This is a very detailed report, a lot of line items explicitly detailed out, a lot of good information here, and I just want to say thank you for a great report. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I believe the last one, thank you, Tanya, is Shovel Bedford Partnership.
Mayor and County Commission, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you tonight. I want to talk to you about 3 areas that we're working on in the partnership and where we are with those. And we'll start with our tourism efforts. The Shelbyville Bedford Partnership is listed as your direct marketing organization for Bedford County, and I'll give you a little bit of an update on that. We were able to participate in erecting a memorial, if you will, a plaque in War Trace for Mr. Jimmy Cleveland, who was a professional musician, and he was recognized at the state level. But if you were able to be there that night and be out there with his family, it was truly a wonderful day to see that family really come together and come back to War Trace and be part of that celebration. The other thing that I want to mention about tourism, Bedford County, we have a tremendous opportunity to move really up the rankings in the state of Tennessee. We have a lot of tourist attractions here, but we've got to do a better job of getting people to them and moving ourselves up in the tourism rankings. What that means is basically revenue back to the city and back to the county. I'll leave tourism and I will go to the retail recruitment. We've had a lot of success lately with retail recruitment, and as I've said before, we are focusing on 3 areas. Those 3 areas are hotels, especially a mid-tier hotel, and then also restaurants, and then a grocer as well. Those will continue to be our focuses for retail recruitment. We lose way too much money to Murfreesboro and to Tullahoma in those areas. Those are our 3 biggest leakage areas. That's why we have selected those 3 areas to focus on with retail recruitment. Finally, I'll talk to you about your workforce development department. Workforce development in Kelly North did a phenomenal job. I think the last time that we had a report or an opportunity to address you, we informed you that National Pen was going to be ceasing operations, manufacturing operations in the United States. That left over 60 people without a job. Workforce development was instrumental and key in being able to help those people find jobs right here in Bedford County. Of those more than 60 people that lost their job, we were able to place 80 of them right here in Bedford County, pulling together job fairs and pulling together what we knew of people that were hiring. So we were able to get at least get over 80% of those folks a job right here in Bedford County, and those were our folks in the first place. So we were able to take care of them, and I'm very proud of Kelly North and her efforts for that. So that's a little bit about workforce development, retail recruitment, and tourism. All of these items drive revenue back to the city and the county, and that's what we're here, and that's our focus. Our focus is driving tourism revenue, increasing sales tax revenue, and training our citizens to be able to maintain jobs. Thank you.
All right, any comment or question for Commissioner Hooker?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. A couple weeks ago, the city voted to defund what money they were giving to the partnership. How does that affect the actual partnership now that we're the only ones contributing to that? Because it was a joint venture, now they're not contributing. How's that affecting the overall partnership?
Thank you for that question. At the partnership, this is the way I view certain items, especially items that get heavy over into the political side. I have a job to do. My job is to take care of the citizens of Bedford County, whether we're talking about bringing in jobs so that dads can be dads and moms can be moms. If we maintain the family structure, if we provide people with an opportunity to be proud of who they are and proud of their housing and proud of who they can be as a family and give them the ability to have hopes and dreams and aspirations, that's what I stay focused on a regular basis. As far as the rest of the partnership and the other things that we do, I would speak for the rest of my staff and say we stay focused on the citizens of Bedford County and the job that we need to do. Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions?
I've got a couple more. All right. The other thing is myself and Commissioner Maddox were not aware of the event that was in War Trace. We never got an email or anything. So in the future, if we do have something in District 1, we'd love to be involved in that because I think that's something that would show support if the commissioners are going there to support it as well. And then the last question I have is the same question I posed to you about 5 months ago. Have we had any status on the environmental impact study from Duxon? I know when I first got elected, I went and met with you, and you said you were going to work on trying to get that for me. I've not received that yet, and again, if that would be something that you could work on for me, because I think it's something that all the commissioners would love to have, because we get a lot of comments and questions from constituents, and I'd love to be able to give them some information about that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, Commissioner Johnson.
One of the things that Mr. Hooper did leave out, and I'll mention now, there's an organization in Middle Tennessee called the Middle Tennessee Industrial Development Association that's funded by TVA and the Economic Community Development. They are the professional industrial developers for Middle Tennessee. Recently, they asked to come here. They brought economic developers and Chamber of Commerce officials from 10 counties here to see how we do what they do here. So, Mr. Hooper, I just want to say, you didn't mention this, so I'm going to mention it. Congratulations on those folks coming down here and benchmarking how we do it here in Bedford County. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? All right, thank you. We're ready for announcements. One of the things that I need to just announce to you, it's not an action item, it's just reflected in the minutes, is we are participants in the 3-star program that the state does, and so they have a particular format that they want their information sent to them. This is the same information that's already approved and a part of the county. So it should have been on your desk for you to see. That'll just be going to them. That will ensure that we continue to be members and able to get grants and what have you with the state of Tennessee by participating in the program. And then also under announcements, the Bedford County Fair starts on the 17th. I believe through the 22nd, and I believe that first night at 6, is it 6 or 6:30? 6, they recognize the elected officials, so if you can be out and come there, they would be happy to have you, Commissioner Yockey.
I think Tanya has something, is it July 27th? Would you remind me?
It just come to the button.
July the 27th is Spotlight Bedford County, and I'm truly encouraging all the commissioners to come join us. I did send an email out. I think I had a couple to come back, and I immediately sent those back out. But we're going to start the day here at the courthouse with our honorable mayor. And he's going to display where we've been, where our history and where our future is going. And then we're going to head to the celebration grounds to actually have an exhibition of our grand champion Walker horse. And then at the Blue Ribbon, we're going to have Rowdy Ranch with lunch. And then we're going to head on to Uncle Nearest for a tour and hopefully have a picture made at the longest bar there. So I just encourage all the commissioners to support this. We've got our senator and our state representative coming. We've got elected officials, not just trustees, from all elected officials coming to join us on the 27th, and we're going to spotlight Bedford County. If you have not registered, I will gladly do that for you. So just let me know tonight if you have not registered. I will just take your name and I will do it for you, so you won't have to worry about it. If you can't join us for the whole day, at least maybe start the day or even join us at lunch and then end it. You know, we want to do the tour, so. But yes, thank you for.
What time does that start?
9:30. And the reason 9:30 is we're allowing people that's coming, driving from other zones that, you know, are going to lose or gain an hour. So 9:30 just seemed to be a working time, and we'll end up around 2 o'clock, 1:30, 2-ish at the Uncle Nearest. So,
Commissioner Vick.
Our Connect Bedford, as an update on our broadband status, if you recall, we're trying to get surveys from everyone, and the consultants told us 300, 400 surveys is kind of a pretty good deal. Nobody's ever done that before, and I am proud to announce that we have almost 1,400 surveys based on the work that we have done. I want to thank Tracy Trossner, Commissioner Boutwell, Commissioner Pinson for the work they've done, as well as our whole team. Those surveys are critical as we move into this final phase and begin our final push into building our broadband plan that will make Bedford County the first rural community in Tennessee that is fully connected, and it's a very big event for all of us. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your support as well.
Absolutely. Commissioner Maddox.
Mr. Chairman, I want to recognize Bedford County Republican Chairman Bogill. Particularly, I want to recognize him as he recently orchestrated one with other members of the Republican Party, include Steve Gall, a few others, to host a successful SRO appreciation event this past week for our law enforcement community, whom we all appreciate greatly. He was able to garner support not only locally, but from a state level with several representative there, and then other documentation from several representatives in the state. But anyway, a huge kudos to Chairman Bogill and the folks from the Republican Party for that event.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Announcements? Commissioner Mark Thomas.
I'll try to make this brief, but hold on, we'll be here a while. As you, a lot of you may recall, the Bedford County Fire Department has been applying for an SCBA grant for over 5 years. And if you don't understand what an SCBA is, that's a self-contained breathing apparatus. You'll see these tanks on the back of firemen's backs, and it's not oxygen in it, it's air. And that's what they breathe in a hazardous, smoky environment. 2 years ago, the committee at that time may recall that Jackson, Tennessee Fire Department donated us some SCBAs that brought us up to a new NFPA standard, which was still an old standard. And NFPA is your National Fire Protection Association, who writes the laws and how we fight fires and do hazardous materials. That being said, it's been a long, hard battle to get there. We're talking in this county that we have over 120 air packs in this county. Most of them are running $7,000 to $10,000 a piece. I want to make you aware that the Bedford County Fire Department did receive a FEMA grant, the AFG grant, in the amount of $840,000 that'll be coming to our fire department for these SCBAs. This will include, thank you, this will include the cities of Bell Buckle, Wartrace, and Normandy, also included in that grant. as you'll recall, I think I told you all that we did also receive a grant from the Tennessee Fire Marshal's Office for a new air compressor to replace a 39-year-old air compressor that fills these bottles for these firemen. They go anywhere from 2,000 PSI up to 6,000 PSI, and that's a lot of pressure on a fireman's back for this air. So that makes our total grants we've received for $889,500 this year. So I'd just like to say thank you to the Bedford County Mayor, the Finance Committee, the Finance Department, Board of Commissioners, past and present, and the members of the Fire Department, the HR Department, and you say, HR Department, why is that? Shannon's wrote grants for us as well. The Cheval Partnership, we got a lot of our data from him, and Shane even wrote us a letter to help sell this deal to the powers that be in Washington. So that, there's a lot of people, and if I probably forgot something, and I'm sure Mark Clinton had something to do with it in there. He's helped me in more ways than one. And I thank you, the Sheriff's Department. And I just want to say, not last but not least at all, is thank you to the good Lord who has watched over our public safety. All of them. I'm not just talking fire department. I'm talking all these people from animal control to the people who work in the offices that help us get where we need to be, every department. And like I said, I just want to thank all of them, the citizens of Bedford County, the people who live here, and also the people who just come through here. Just wanted to say thank you all.
It's fantastic. Relieves a huge burden because had we not gotten this, and Mark's been trying to get it for the last at least 2 or 3 cycles, we were really running to the point of we were possibly going to have to look to borrow money just because these were timing out, and you cannot put these people in these unsafe environments without the proper equipment, nor should we. Is there any other announcements or comments before we go? Is there a motion to adjourn? Absolutely.